Hello, my friends. Welcome to my reading channel. Today's story is entitled Too Many Chickens, written by Paulette Borges and illustrated by Bill Slovin. Mrs. Kerr's class wiggled and squiggled and giggled. The farmer had brought the eggs, a dozen eggs that would soon be chicks. They were oval and speckled and smelled like a chicken coop. Michael Alexander wrinkled his nose. Mrs. Kerr rolled her eyes and asked the farmer politely to put the eggs in the incubator. The class took good care of the eggs. They turned them and checked them. They worried about them at night. And then, on the 21st day, a crack marbled the surface of an egg. The crack widened. Rat-tat-tat, needled the beak. For the very first time, Mrs. Kerr's class was still. The eggs opened one by one, like ice cracking in the spring. All the chicks hatched. They were the color of sweet butter and as soft as cotton balls. The principal came to see the chicks. The caretaker came to see the chicks. Even the grade 6 came to see the chicks. Aren't they cute? They cooed. The chicks went peep and tried to hop over the edge of the brooder. On Monday, the farmer was supposed to come to get the chicks, but she never arrived. By Thursday, the chicks were big enough to jump. Mrs. Kerr was worried. Every day, they grew a little bigger. They were noisy and speckled and smelled like a chicken coop. They roosted on the science table and pecked under desks. They clawed at the carpet. They took baths in the sinks and shook their soggy feathers on the art supplies. They were always hungry. Mrs. Kerr kept a bag of seed in her desk. The rooster found his crowing voice, and the hens never stopped chattering. "I can't stand this anymore!" screamed Michael Alexander when a chicken walked across his brand new notebook. "They are noisy and ugly and they stink!" It was true. The chicks weren't cute anymore, and they did smell. Nobody visited room 17, not even the caretaker. Then the chicks started laying eggs. Michael Alexander painted a sign, and Mrs. Kerr taught the children how to reach under the hens and gather eggs. Finally, the farmer came. She was most apologetic. She already had so many chickens, she forgot to pick up the chicks. The farmer looked around room 17 and grinned. "These chickens look so happy," she said. "I can't bear to take them away." Before Mrs. Kerr could interrupt, the farmer added, "Here's a little present for all you've done." Michael Alexander shuddered. Mrs. Kerr rolled her eyes. "Bunnies!" said Mrs. Kerr. "How cute!" The rabbits had long white fur, pink eyes, and crinkly wet noses. The principal came to see the bunnies. The caretaker came to see the bunnies. Even the grade 6s came to see the bunnies. Soon there were 4 more bunnies. Mrs. Kerr had to build a bigger cage. She kept carrots and alfalfa in her desk. Before long, there were 16 bunnies. But Mrs. Kerr wasn't worried. Michael Alexander painted a new sign, and Mrs. Kerr taught the class how to knit. Soon everyone was wearing an Angora hat, even the farmer. Why? She was so happy with her new hat that she gave Mrs. Kerr's class a present. Michael Alexander gasped. Mrs. Kerr rolled her eyes. There, outside the school, hunched over the grass, was a great big old runny goat. "The old goat smells," said Michael Alexander. "I know," said Mrs. Care. "At least she eats the grass," said Michael Alexander. "And I think the caretaker likes her," said Mrs. Care. There was no way to get rid of the old goat, but Mrs. Care wasn't worried. Michael Alexander took out his paints. Mrs. Care kept apples in her desk and taught the children how to milk. People liked the goat's milk. The caretaker bought 2 glasses every morning and said he'd never felt better. Mrs. Care's class earned enough money from selling eggs and milk and hats to buy a small farm far away from the school. The caretaker decided he'd always wanted to live in the country. He took the chickens and the bunnies and the goat and went to live on the farm. The end. Oh wow, look at that! They have learned a lot from raising these animals and earned money as well. How about you? Would you like to raise chickens, bunnies, and goats too? For sure, we all love animals. I hope Mommy and Daddy would love it too. Well, let's see. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories to watch and listen to. Have a nice day. See you on my next video. Bye-bye.